Hello dear students. Students, good evening to one and all. Students, I welcome you back once again to F Master. See students, previously we have seen Animal Kingdom, which is very important chapter in 11th standard. In detail you have studied Animal Kingdom. So today we are going to start new chapter, and the title of the chapter is, if you see students, the title of the chapter is this: Biology in Human Welfare. Students, Biology in Human Welfare, new chapter. So already you have studied Animal Kingdom, so you have lot of information with you regarding what animals. Students, regarding non-chordates and chordates, you have lot of information with you. That information definitely help you to understand this chapter very easily. Students, same chapter you see, Biology in Human Welfare, this will be there in NCERT 12th standard, right, and this will be not the chapter, this will be the title of the unit in NCERT 12th standard. Students, and in this unit, so for time being, let us take this Biology in Human Welfare as unit. In this unit in 12th standard, there are 3 chapters. Students, one is Human Health and Diseases, and another one is Strategies for Enhancement in Food Production, and one more chapter is there in this unit, that is Microbes in Human Welfare. Students, right. So here Biology in Human Welfare is chapter, whereas in 12th standard NCERT it is unit, it consists of 3 chapters. Students, right. So Biology in Human Welfare, in this Biology in Human Welfare you see students, Human Health and Diseases, right. So this is subtopic as far as this Biology in Human Welfare is concerned. Student, right. So today we are going to discuss this in detail, this subtopic Human Health and Diseases in Biology in Human Welfare. Students, this is very important, right. Let us begin what we have to discuss in this chapter. Let me explain you in brief what exactly we are going to discuss in this chapter. See, our discussion begins with what? Parasitism. Students, right. So you know parasites, what are parasites, right. So some parasites are pathogens as they cause what? As they cause diseases. Students, so therefore some parasites can be called pathogens, or some pathogens can be called parasites. That we have to see what is parasitism, what is parasite, right student, right, and you know host, types of host we have to see in detail. Then vectors, right. So one more kind of technical term you will come across generally while discussing diseases, that is what? Vectors. Students, so these things in brief we have to see. In today's session we are going to talk about parasites, parasitism, parasites, types of parasites, types of hosts and types of vectors, right student, right. So apart from this, so in order to live inside the body of the host, endoparasites show many adaptations in their morphology and anatomy. Students, so those parasitic adaptations also we have to see in this chapter. And apart from that, so parasites, when they are living inside the body of their host, so obviously they will be causing what? Damage, they will be causing what? Damage and diseases to the host. So effects of parasites also we have to discuss in brief in this chapter. Students, and after discussing all these things, so then we have few parasites. From protozoan we have Entamoeba histolytica life cycle, that is it causes amoebiasis. Entamoeba causes amoebiasis, we have to see amoebiasis in detail, right student, right. And then one more protozoan parasite is Plasmodium vivax. Plasmodium vivax causes what? Malaria, that malaria cycle, malaria we have to see in detail. Students, so these are 2 organisms. And then from helminthic, platyhelminthes, from Aschelminthes, we do not have any organism from platyhelminthes in our syllabus. Then we have to see helminthic diseases. Students, Aschelminthes, from Aschelminthes we have Ascaris lubricoides and Wuchereria bancrofti, their life cycles we have to see. And some viral diseases, bacterial diseases, right, and fungal diseases. In viral diseases we have few common cold, right. So bacterial diseases, typhoid, pneumonia is there. in fungal disease, ringworm we have to see students, right. So, these are the topics we have to discuss under this chapter, human health and diseases, that is right, biology in human welfare students. And at last we have to talk about what alcohol drug abuse students, right. So, one more topic is there, small topic, alcohol drug abuse. So, these are the topics we have to discuss in this chapter in detail, students. So, let us begin first article, and that first article is, you see students, are very simple, quite interesting, right. So, chapter title you see, biology in human welfare students, right. So, in biology in human welfare, first we are going to talk about what this right article. Let us take up parasitism. What exactly parasitism is there, right students, right. So, this parasitism again you will come across what in ecology part, right. So, in among animal interaction, so this is a kind of animal interaction student, right. So, in animal interaction you will come across what, this parasitism as well. So, listen to me meticulously, this information will be definitely useful for you student, right. So, it is very simple. So, this word parasitism is actually derived from Greek language, right. So, you can see there I have shown. So, in Greek, parasitos in Greek language, you see the word parasite is derived from which language? This is Greek term actually, right. You need to understand this is important again. And Greek term, parasite is not Greek term, parasitos, this is parasitos is what? Greek term student, right. So, you need to remember parasitos. Para means what? Para means, you need to remember, at the side of, students. Para means at the side of, and you see cytos means what? Food or grain, dear students, right. So, this word parasitism is derived from which language? Greek language, students, right. So, this is important, you need to remember. So, this parasitism is derived from two Greek terms, students. One is para means what? Right. So, at the side of, right, and cytos means food or grain, students. From these two terms this word parasitism is derived. If you remember, it would be better, students. So, exactly what is the meaning of what, literary meaning of parasitism? So, parasitism means eating, right. So, one eating at another one's table, students. So, this is the literary meaning of the parasitism. What is parasitism? Parasitism means one eating at the, another one's table, student. So, that is the meaning of parasitism, you need to remember. But, so instead of defining parasitism like that, so we should give comprehensive definition as far as parasitism is concerned, students. So, you see it is very simple definition I would like to provide you regarding this parasitism. And what exactly parasitism is? Parasitism is an association between organisms belonging to two different species. Here you need to remember what your teacher is exactly talking about. See, in parasitism, two organisms are involved, and these two organisms are belonging to what? Different species, dear students, that you need to remember. Means what? It is an interspecific association, right. It is an interspecific association, means an association between organisms belonging to two different species. In this association, one organism is benefited and other organism is harmed, right student, right. So, this kind of association is known as what? Parasitism. So, all you need to remember, parasitism can be defined as an association between organisms belonging to two different species in which one organism is benefited, other organism is harmed. The organism which is benefited is called what? Parasite, student, and the organism which is harmed is called what? Host. That is also you need to remember. It is very simple, student, very simple. I hope you enjoyed. This is simple. So, what is parasitism? An association, right, you can say, or interaction or interrelation. So, many terms you can use. So, you should not restrict to one word, student, right. So, you should have understanding, in-depth understanding of the subject, right. So, what is parasitism? Parasitism can be defined as an association or interrelationship between organisms belonging to two different species, or interaction between organisms belonging to two different species in which one organism called parasite is benefited and other organism, right, called host is always harmed, students, right. So, this is the definition of the parasitism. I hope you enjoyed this. It is very simple. And see, the organism which depend on other organism for food or shelter is known as what? Parasite, student, and parasite is always gainer in this association, you need to remember. And the organism which provide shelter or food or nourishment, you can say, to the parasite is known as host student, and the host is always harmed, right. Host is loser here in this association, you need to remember. So, another most important thing, so when we are talking about what interactions, animal interactions, so it's, you should know this is because in future it will very useful for you. Animal interaction, what? In animal interaction also you will come across what this kind of interaction, this is what parasitism. Parasitism is a kind of animal interaction. So, generally here, right, so parasite is benefited, so that is shown with what? Plus sign, student, right. So, plus sign indicates what? This plus sign indicates what? Benefit, student, right. So, which one is benefited? Parasite is benefited. And you see minus sign, this minus sign indicates what? Minus sign indicates, see this minus sign indicates loss, student, right. And here minus sign is for what? Host. So, host is harmed, and this plus sign is for what? Student, parasite, because parasite is benefited in this association, you need to remember. So, this information you will get in future in ecology, student, right. So, when we are discussing this parasitism is everything which is there in 11th and 12th standard, right, and which is useful for NEET, that information you should get at one place, right. So, that is what is my intention behind explaining all these things, students. So, I hope you understood what exactly parasitism is and what exactly parasite is and what exactly host is. So, in simple, one more definition is there for parasitism, students. An association between parasite and host, right, is also called what? Parasitism, student, right. I hope you understood, it is a very simple. So, with this we have finished what? This term parasitism we have finished, dear students. Let us discuss some other terms. So, see, we have seen parasitism, you have understood parasitism. So, you have also understood what exactly parasite is, and you have also understood what exactly host is, right, student, right. It's very simple, it's a kind of association. Now, you see types of parasites. So, there are many criteria based on which parasites are classified, students, right. So many criteria are there. So, based on their location, where exactly parasites are found on the body of their host, whether they are found inside the body of the host or they are found outside the body of the host. So, based on this criteria, parasites are classified into two types, students, especially you need to remember. One is ectoparasite and another one is endoparasite. So, it is a very simple, or you can say external parasites and internal parasites in simple terms, students, right. So, it is see external parasites. External parasites are also called what? Ectoparasite, students. It is very simple, right. So, what exactly ectoparasites are or external parasites are? If a parasite lives on the body, of its host, right. So, such parasite is called what? Ectoparasite. It is a very simple. If parasites live on the body of their host, so such parasites are called what? Ectoparasites, or they are also called external parasite, students, right. So many examples we have. So, you see on our body, so you can find what? Head louse, you can see here I have shown, so that you can understand very easily. So, this is what? Head of an individual, student, right. So, here you can clearly see. So, in hair, on head in hair, right, you can find what? Very small what you can say insects, students, right, and those are nothing but what? Head louse, right. So, head louse pediculus, its scientific name is pediculus. This is arthropodon, and that too it belongs to what class? Insecta, student, you have studied. So, that is the beauty. So, that is the relationship between whatever you have studied in animal kingdom, right. So, animal kingdom, if you are having complete understanding of the animal kingdom, so you can easily understand this chapter, human health and diseases or biology and human welfare, right, student, right. It is a very simple. So, I hope you understood what exactly ectoparasite is. What is ectoparasite? If a parasite lives on the body of the host, so such parasite is called ectoparasite or external parasite, student, right. We have so many examples. One example is head louse. So, head louse which lives in, right, hair, student, on head. So, body louse, one more example is there. So, this human being is host and this louse is what here? Parasite, student, right. So many other examples are also there. You can see I have shown ticks on dogs. You might have seen on dog body, you can find what? Some what you can say, organism students. So, they are ticks on dogs is one more example. So, one more example, copypods you can find on marine fishes student, right, copypods you can find on marine fishes, you need to remember. So, these are some examples, right student, right. You can see just bit head louse I have magnified so that you can understand. So, here you cannot see clearly, but same organism you know I have magnified over here, you see head louse. So, this is the head louse, right student, right. You can even with the help of magnifying glass you can observe, right. So, head louse. So, with this we have finished what ectoparasite student, right, right, it is very simple. So, you see one more thing I would like to share with you student, right. You know you might have seen insect students, what you can say, mosquitoes, right, right. So, female Anaphylus mosquito, you know, that sucks the blood of what human being, but that female Anaphylus mosquito is not considered as what obligate parasite student. Why it is not considered as obligate parasite, though it feeds on blood of human being student, right, right. So, it is not considered as obligate parasite, you need to remember. So, it will be just considered as what vector student, right. So, this female Anaphylus mosquito is not a parasite, it is just considered as what vector student, as it helps in transmission of the disease. So, why it is? So, see students, so to qualify what parasite, organisms need to show some characteristic feature students, right, right. So, how much time it is spending on the body of the host, that will be taken into consideration, right student, right. And see here why female mosquito which feeds on blood, though it feeds on blood, it is not considered as parasite. So, that you know you need to understand what exactly why it is not considered as parasite, right, right. So, bit information I have given, you see generally what happens, both male and female mosquitoes, male mosquitoes exclusively feed on what fruit juices students, but female and male both mosquitoes feed on what you know plant juices students, right, and fluid which comes out of plant parts. Again you see another most important thing, but female mosquito, right student, right, also feeds on what blood, you know it feeds on blood of human being. So, why it feeds on blood of human being, you see. So, female mosquito blood is required for you know developing fertile eggs, where in female students you need to remember, right, right. Why? So, you know eggs need what, some iron. So, some iron is required for the development of what, eggs of the female students. So, therefore, female feeds on what, human being blood, right student, right. So, males do not feed on blood, whereas females feed on the blood of human being. When they feed on the blood of human being, right, along with blood they will get iron, that iron is required for what, development of their eggs students, right, right. So, that is very very important, you need to remember. And other most important thing, so they need what, human blood for reproduction. So, female mosquitoes, they do not need blood for their survival. Female mosquitoes feed on the blood of the human being, right. So, for the you know that blood is required for the development of what, the blood is required for developing eggs, not for the survival of the female mosquito student, right. Female mosquito, if it can't feed on blood of human being, even then it can survive, right, right. And another most important thing, so the time which is the time spent by the female mosquito on the body of the host is not again sufficient to categorize what, this female mosquito as what, parasite student. So, all you need to remember, female mosquito, female Anaphylus mosquito is not considered as what, parasite, it is just considered as what, host student, right, right. Why? Female mosquito does not need blood, human blood for its survival, it just take blood meal of human being for the which you know that blood is required for the development of what, fertilized eggs students. For that purpose only female mosquito takes what, blood of the human being students, right, right. And blood is not a requirement for the survival of the female mosquito, and it can survive without what, consuming human being blood, right. For the development of fertilizing egg only blood is required, right. And you know female mosquito is not going to again remain on the body of the human being student, right. So, it will be there on the body of the human being for very short span of time. So, all these, if we consider all these things, so these cannot be categorized into what, parasite student, right. So, just it is considered as what, vector only, you need to remember. So, that is the explanation for this, why female Anaphylus mosquito, though it feeds on the human being blood, is not considered as parasite, right. It is not considered as parasite, it is just considered as vector only. I have given lot of explanation students, I hope you understood, it is very simple. You see second parasite, you see endoparasite students. First we have seen ectoparasites, right. Generally what we think, so generally I have seen, so when I explained what head louse is an external parasite, so immediately something will come in students mind, right. So, they start thinking that mosquito, which again sucks the blood of human being, right. So, may also comes under this category of external parasite, but it is not external parasite, you do remember this, this is very very important. For that purpose I have explained all these things. Second category of the parasite is, you see students, endoparasites, right. It is very simple. If parasite lives inside the body of its host, right, so then it is called what, endoparasite, you need to remember student, right. You see inside the body of the host I said, so such all parasites are considered as what, endoparasites. So, exactly where parasite is living inside the body of the host, so based on that endoparasites are further classified student, right. What are those, categories? Let us have a look. You can see endoparasites are further classified based on their exact location inside the body of their host student, right. So, three categories are there. Cytozoic are intracellular parasite students. So, very simple, it is cyto means associated with cell, cytozoic, right. So, zoic means they are just feeding on the cell, you need to remember students. So, cytozoic parasite. Cytozoic parasite, they are also called what, intracellular parasites. So, you guys are aware what exactly intracellular is. If the parasite survives or lives inside the cell of their host, such parasites are called what, intracellular parasite students. It is very simple, you see. For intracellular parasites, we have some examples, right. So, Plasmodium vivax attacks what, human RBC students. Plasmodium vivax also attacks what, human being liver cells, right, and it lives inside the, it reproduces inside the RBCs of human being asexually, and it also reproduces what, asexually in the liver cells students, hepatocytes, right. It means what, it means parasite is living inside the cell of the host. So, such parasites are called what, cytozoic parasites or intracellular parasite students, you need to remember, it is very simple. See, I have mentioned Plasmodium vivax in man. So, Plasmodium vivax is living inside the RBCs of man. Plasmodium vivax also capable of living inside what, the hepatocytes, liver cells of the man students. We will discuss in detail. So, in Plasmodium vivax life cycle students, in malaria disease we will discuss all these things in very very detailed manner. One more example is there, Nosema notabilis students. This is Nidosporan. Nidosporan means what? This is protozoan, right student, right? You know, you are aware of this Nidospora. So, Nosema notabilis is a Nidosporan protozoan student, you need to remember. This Nosema notabilis unicellular organism, this lives in another unicellular organism, that is another Nidosporan, Spirospora polymorpha, which is a parasite that lives in the urinary bladder of toadfish student, you need to remember, this is very very important. So, Nosema notabilis lives in the Spirospora polymorpha student. So, these are some two examples I have given. You see, with the help of image you can clearly understand. So, what you are seeing here is RBC student, human being RBC. Inside RBC you can find what, some parasites. Are you able to see some structures inside the RBC? Yeah, those structures are nothing but what? Those structures are nothing but Plasmodium students, right. It is very simple, very very simple students. I hope you understood. If parasite lives inside the cell of their host, such parasites are called intracellular parasites or cytozoic parasite students. So, we have beautiful example here, Plasmodium vivax lives in RBC. Plasmodium vivax also not only lives, but it also asexually reproduces in RBC student, it also asexually reproduces in hepatocytes, liver cell students, right. How they reproduce, what are the stages which come out of these cells, we will discuss subsequently in detail, student, right. And this Nosema notabilis lives nidosporan unicellular organism, it lives in another unicellular organism, another nidosporan, Polyspora, Spiromorpha, Spirospora polymorpha, student, right. So this is again nidosporan, both are nidosporan. So Nosema notabilis lives inside Spirospora polymorpha, student, you need to remember. So with this we have finished what? Cytozoic first category we have finished, dear students. Cytozoic parasites or intracellular parasites we have finished. Let us talk about second category of the endoparasites. And what is the second category of endoparasites? You see, these are there inside the body of the host, no doubt, first thing, common thing, right. But you know, some parasites, what they do, they live in between the cells, students, right. So what do you mean by in between the cells? Suppose, just to make you understand, see, this is what one cell, student, this is another cell, this is one more cell, this is one more cell, this is one more cell, right. So this is one more cell. So this is what? This is tissue, dear students, right. So in between, so just imagine, so here if it is parasite is there here, right. So in between cell parasite is there or not? Yeah. So just imagine, this is what? Parasite, student, right. So it's very simple, try to enjoy the beauty of the subject, you see how simple it is, you see. These are what? All these are what? Cells, dear students, all these are cells, it's very simple. So these are all, these are cells. Some parasites, what they do, they live in between the cells, right. Matlab, they live what? In the space which is found in between cells, students, right. So such parasites are called what? Intercellular parasite, students, right. So first category intracellular, second category is what? Intercellular, in between, right, in between, like interstate games, right. So inter-district games, like that, right. So in between districts, in between state, like that. So in between cells they live, right. So some parasites, they have adapted to live in between the cells, not inside the cells, but in between the cells they can live. So such parasites are called what, students? Histozoic parasite. Means what? They are, histo means associated with histology, study of tissue, right. So you have studied all these things. So see, some parasites live in the tissue, in between the cells. So such parasites are called histozoic parasites, right. So these parasites are also called what? Intercellular parasites, students. I hope you understood, it's very simple, very simple. So right, so we have again examples, classical examples for what? This kind of parasites, intercellular parasite, students. So one is Entamoeba histolytica is a very famous one, right, student, right. Entamoeba histolytica, you need to understand. And one more is there, Wuchereria bancrofti, student, right. Wuchereria bancrofti comes under this kind of parasite, histozoic parasite. And one more is there, Entamoeba histolytica, also comes under what? This kind of, right, parasite, student, right. So histozoic parasite. So for all you need to remember, cytozoic parasites are intracellular parasites, histozoic parasites are intercellular parasites. If parasite lives inside the cell, intracellular or cytozoic. If parasites live in between the cells in the tissue, that is called histozoic or intercellular parasites, students, right. I hope you understood, it's a very simple. With this we have finished what exactly in endoparasites, what exactly cytozoic parasite, intracellular parasite, and what exactly intercellular parasite, we have finished, dear students. Let us talk about one more category, you know, this is endoparasite, second category, right. So ectoparasite we have finished. In endoparasite second category we have third type, students, you can see here clearly I have mentioned coelozoic parasites. What? Coelozoic parasites. Ectoparasite we have seen, endoparasites three types, intracellular, cytozoic we have seen, intercellular, histozoic we have seen, examples also we have seen. Third category is, you see, coelozoic parasite. It's a very simple, students. You have studied coelom, you know what exactly coelom is. Space which is present in between body wall and alimentary canal is known as what? And lined by mesoderm is called, don't forget to mention mesoderm. If you say space which is present in between body wall and alimentary canal, and if you don't use the word mesoderm, so that is not coelom, right. So simply you are talking about some space, right. So if what do you mean by coelom? Space which is present in between body wall and alimentary canal, and that is lined by the mesoderm, that is called what? Coelom, student, right. It's very simple, body cavity. Some parasites live in the coelom, right. So such parasites are called what? Coelozoic parasites, students. So that is what I have mentioned, you see, they live within the cavities of the host body, right, student, right. It's very simple. So if parasites live in the body cavity of their host, so such parasites are called what? Cenozoic parasite, students, you need to remember. Again what happens, I said in between alimentary canal and body wall and alimentary canal I said, right. Now you see some parasites, endoparasite, students, what they do, they live inside the lumen of what, alimentary canal, students, inside the alimentary canal they live. So such parasites are called enterozoic parasite, student, you need to remember, right, it's very simple. So they are called what, you know, it's very simple, enterozoic parasite, student, if the parasite lives in the alimentary canal, right. So example is Ascaris lumbricoides, it's very simple. So in endoparasites we have seen intracellular, intercellular also we have seen, intra is also called cytozoic, inter is also called histozoic. Third category is what, coelozoic, if parasite lives in the body cavities, that is called coelozoic parasite, right. If the parasite lives inside the alimentary canal or inside the lumen of the alimentary canal, right, or gut, so such parasites are called what, enterozoic parasite, students. Enteron means what, gut, you need to remember. So already you have some idea, enteron means what, enteron means gut, dear students, you need to remember, or alimentary canal, always you have to remember, enteron means alimentary canal. You have studied animal kingdom in detail, so I hope you have idea of all these technical words, students, right, it's very simple, always do remember, whenever you come across this word enteron, that means gut, student, right. So if inside the gut parasites live, or if inside the alimentary canal, right, student, right, digestive tract parasites live and they derive their nourishment and they cause damage to their host, so such parasites are called what, enterozoic parasites. So you can clearly see, my dear students, here I have shown in the picture. So this is small intestine, right. So small intestine, just I cut the small intestine and brought it for you, right. So you can see in the lumen of small intestine you can find large number of what, roundworm, students, right, and these are nothing but what, Ascaris. This is important, you need to remember. So all these are what, Ascaris is commonly known as roundworm, students, common roundworm. Ascaris lumbricoides, its full name is Ascaris lumbricoides, right, common name is common roundworm, students. What, Ascaris is popularly known as common roundworm, right, student, right. It causes ascariasis, right. What are the symptoms and how it is caused, its life cycle, we will discuss subsequently in detail. So at this point of time, all you need to remember, you can clearly see with the help of this image, right, you can understand and you can remember this forever. You see inside the lumen of the alimentary canal, so this is what, alimentary canal, students, and that too small intestine. In the lumen of what, small intestine, you can find large number of what, these roundworms, Ascaris lumbricoides. So Ascaris lumbricoides is what, of course, endoparasite, and that too it is what, enterozoic parasite, student, you need to remember, it's very simple. So with this we have finished what, students. So endoparasites also we have finished, you need to remember, it's very simple. Again you see some special things, parasites living in the gut of the host are called what, enterozoic parasite, student, I told you. Ascaris is what, enterozoic parasite and coelozoic parasite. Ascaris is an example for what, both enterozoic as well as coelozoic, you do remember this, it's very simple. Whereas Entamoeba histolytica is, it's very important, again you need to remember, it is enterozoic, means it is not it is enterozoic, means it is living in the alimentary canal, students, right. It will be there in the lumen of alimentary canal as well as it will be there in the wall of alimentary canal, you need to remember. So Entamoeba histolytica is again further, right, information, Ascaris lumbricoides is enterozoic, coelozoic and enterozoic, whereas this one Entamoeba histolytica is what, again of course endoparasite, but it is also called what, enterozoic and histozoic parasite, you need to remember, student, right. So this is extra information. Next you see third category. So what we have seen so far, what is parasitism, what is parasite, what is host, right, student, right, and types of parasites we are discussing. We have finished what, ectoparasites, we have finished what, endoparasites, students. In endoparasites 3 categories we have finished. Now you see third category of the parasite is parasite, right, hyperparasite, student, right, hyperparasite, you need to remember, parasite in or on a parasite. It's a very important student, you need to remember. What is hyperparasite? Hyperparasite is very simple. If a parasite lives on or in other parasite. So, such parasite is called what? Hyperparasite. Means what? Parasite which lives on another parasite, which lives in or on. If it is living on the body, then we can use what? On. If it is living inside the body, then can we use on? No. So, if a parasite lives in or on another parasite, so such parasite is called what? Hyperparasite. You need to remember this. This is very, very simple again, right? Right, student, right? So, we have classical example for this hyperparasite, Nosema notabilis, student, right. So, Nosema notabilis already we have seen, this is an example for what? Intracellular parasite or cytoparasite, right, cytozoic parasite. So, notice same example Nosema notabilis, right. So, is an example for what? Hyperparasite. So, Nosema notabilis is nidosporan that lives inside what? Spirospora polymorpha. This is also nidosporan, and this Spirospora polymorpha is parasite on urinary bladder of toadfish, right, students. Spirospora polymorpha is a parasite that lives in the urinary bladder of toadfish, right, right. So, means Spirospora polymorpha is a cnidarian parasite, and that its host is toadfish. It lives in the urinary bladder of the toadfish. But one more nidosporan is there, its name is what? Nosema notabilis. That Nosema notabilis lives on or lives in, you must say, lives in Spirospora polymorpha, student, right, right. So, that is the beauty, that is the beauty of the hyperparasite. So, this hyperparasite, what they are doing? They are again attacking on, they are attacking on parasites, right, right. So, such parasites are called hyperparasites. All you need to remember, when a parasite lives in or on other parasites, so such parasites are called hyperparasites. We have classical example for hyperparasite, that is Nosema notabilis, nidosporan. This is protozoan unicellular organism that lives in Spirospora polymorpha, right, which is parasite lives in the urinary bladder of the toadfish, student, right. You can see here in this image. So, with the help of image you can remember forever. Students, you see this is what? This entire organism is what? This entire organism is Spirospora, right. What? Spirospora. Here I would like to magnify so that you can clearly see Spirospora. Spirospora polymorpha. Its full name is Spirospora polymorpha. This is Spirospora, right. This is nidosporan, student, right. Not cnidarian, nidosporan. You do not have classification of protozoa, right. Nidosporan, not cnidarian, do not get confused. This is nidosporan, protozoan. So, this is Spirospora polymorpha. Inside Spirospora polymorpha, are you able to see, right. So, this structure, this is what? Nosema, what? Nosema notabilis. This is also what? This is also nidosporan. This is also nidosporan, you need to remember, right, student, right. So, you tell now. So, inside this is unicellular organism, nidosporan, right, Spirospora. This Spirospora lives in the urinary bladder of toadfish. Inside this Spirospora, one more parasite is living, right. So, both belong to what? Same group, nidosporan, student, protozoan, Nosema notabilis. You can clearly see. So, with this we have finished what? Hyperparasite also we have finished in detail, student. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you understood, it is very simple. Let us talk about another category of parasites, students. You see, I told you there are several criteria for the classification. First two things, I mean first two types we have seen based on what? Based on where they are living on the host body, we have seen, dear students. As far as third one is concerned, so where, so you know, whether it is living on other parasite or not. So, based on that we have seen hyperparasite, student, right, right. So, you see again so many different kinds of parasites we have in our list. Monogenetic parasite, student, right. So, these terms are very, very useful for you when we start life cycles, when we start discussing life cycles of the parasites or diseases in detail, right, which are mentioned in our syllabus in detail. So, that time these technical words will be very, very useful for you, students. So, that is what is my intention behind explaining all these things in detail. Monogenetic parasites, you know, students, what exactly mono means? Mono means single, right, right. If parasite completes its life cycle only in one host, There are some parasites, so they need only one host to complete their life cycle, students. So such parasites are called monogenetic parasites, right? Monogenetic parasites, it's very simple. See, what are the examples we have for monogenetic parasites? So many examples are there, students. Ascaris lumbricoides, you see, common roundworm. That is an example for what? Monogenetic parasite. Ascaris lumbricoides completes its life cycle only in one host, right? That is human being. So that is why Ascaris lumbricoides is called what? Monogenetic parasite, student. And one more we have example, Entamoeba histolytica, right? So we have both Ascaris lumbricoides and Entamoeba histolytica in our syllabus, students. So when I explain life cycle of what? Entamoeba histolytica and Ascaris lumbricoides, so I will be just focusing on what? Human being, student, right? So human being will be their host. Am I clear to you? Yes. You see, student, it's very simple. If parasite completes its life cycle only in one host, such parasite is called what? Monogenetic parasite. And example for monogenetic parasite is, right, Ascaris lumbricoides, that completes its life cycle only in one host, that is man. Entamoeba histolytica, that also completes its life cycle in man, student. So all you need to remember, these are monogenetic parasites. You see one more type of parasite I have given here, digenetic parasite. You know, students, always whenever you come across this word di, right, mono means single, di means plural. So digenetic parasite means what? So if same dialogue, all you need to remember, you have to change the one word, you have to change. If parasite completes its life cycle, or if parasite requires two hosts to complete its life cycle, so such parasites are called digenetic parasites, students. What is digenetic parasite? If parasite requires two hosts to complete its life cycle, so then such parasites are called what? Digenetic parasites, students. We have so many digenetic parasites, right? So in our syllabus we have some diseases, right? So there, when I start discussing those diseases in detail, you will come to know exactly so how parasite is going to make use of two hosts or sometimes more than two hosts to complete its life cycle, students, right. So for time being, I would like to provide one example over here. You see here, so are you able to see this image? So NCERT 12th standard, right, you will come across this, you have to focus on this only, you have to remember this only, practice this only, that's it. You can see two things over here. Are you able to see? This is human being's hand, student, right? So means what? Human being. And you can see somewhere here, right, student, right? So here one thing, here both the things you can remember, human being as well as mosquito. So this is what? Life cycle of malaria parasite, student, Plasmodium vivax. So Plasmodium vivax completes its life cycle in two hosts. One is man and another one is what? Female Anaphylus mosquito, students. Man is secondary host or vertebrate host, and female Anaphylus mosquito is primary host. Why female Anaphylus mosquito is primary, why man is secondary, you will come to know subsequently. We will discuss in types of host, students. At this point of time, all you need to remember, Plasmodium vivax needs, malaria parasite needs two hosts to complete its life cycle. So therefore Plasmodium vivax is an example for what? Digenetic parasite, students. Similarly, one more parasite we have, that is Wuchereria bancrofti, students. I have mentioned here, you see, Wuchereria bancrofti, filarial worm, right, student, which causes elephantiasis. That also requires two hosts to complete its life cycle, students, right. So that is one more example as far as what? Digenetic parasite is concerned. So here in Wuchereria bancrofti, female Culex mosquito acts as what? Secondary host, and human being is, right, acting as what? Primary host, student. Whereas in case of malaria, human being is acting as secondary host and female Anaphylus mosquito will be acting as what? Primary host, students. Why? So that is what beauty, we will discuss in detail, students. So are you clear with this? I hope you are clear with this, students, right. So we have finished how many? 5 different kinds of parasites we have finished. Ectoparasites, endoparasites, hyperparasites, monogenetic parasites, digenetic parasites, we have finished, dear students. So many again types of parasites will be there, dear students, right? Zoo parasites, the parasites which attack on animals are called zoo parasites. You can pick up any example from this, right? So again, phytoparasites, parasites which attack on plants are called what? Phytoparasites, students, right. You see again some nematodes attack on what? plants, they are called what? Phytonematode students, right. So in biotechnology 12th standard we have an example for that, Melidogyne incognitia student, Melidogyne incognitia, that causes root knot disease, you need to remember, in tobacco plant. So this is the beauty of the biology students. So every chapter will be having connection with what? Some other chapter, so that you need to learn over here, right. So that is the beauty. If you learn how to connect one chapter with another chapter, what is the connection between, you know, all the chapters, there will be connection, and you have to find out the connection. That is the what you can say, that is the main thing in preparation. Your preparation, you must be able to right, understand the connection between what? Different chapter students. So if you are able to connect different chapters, so success will be right. So you will be succeeded student, right. It's very simple. See, all these things we have finished. Let us talk about host students, right. Again you see so many facultative parasites are there, obligatory parasites are there. You know, some parasites, they lead only parasitic life. If host is not available, they will die. So they are called what? Obligatory parasite students, right. So some parasites are there. If an opportunity is there for parasitism, they lead parasitic life. If opportunity is not there, they can live freely student, right. So they lead free life. So such parasites are called facultative parasite students, right. Strongyloids are what? Strongyloids are what you can say, helminthic worms students. They come under what? This category, facultative parasite category student, you need to remember. Again Pythium, in case of what? Fungi, Pythium, right. So whenever opportunity is there, it leads what? Parasitic life. If opportunity is not there, it can live independently students, right. So many examples are there, but those are not mentioned in our textbook, those are not mentioned in syllabus. So I don't want to plunge you into confusion by giving so many extra things, right. So pinpoint we will discuss, important thing we will discuss students. You see types of hosts again. So again you see what exactly host is. The organism which provides shelter or nourishment to the parasite is called what? Host student. So hosts are of different types, different hosts are there. Hosts are classified into what? Different types based on what kind of stage of the parasite they are accommodating. So there are three types of host students, right. So let us see what are those three types of host. First one, you see, most important, primary host student. Primary host is also called what? Definitive host student. So this is very important term, you need to remember. Terminology is very important here in this biology. Primary host, what is primary host we will discuss, but primary host is also known as what? Definitive host student, right. What exactly primary host is? See, there are so many definitions, right. We can define primary host in different ways. If adult parasite, if adult stage of the parasite, if host harbors, means if host accommodates, right, or if adult stage of the parasite lives in the, in which host the adult stage of the parasite is living, that host is called what? Definitive host student, you need to remember, or primary host. It's a very important. Otherwise we can define occasionally primary host in this way: the host which harbors, right, means which supports, which accommodates sexually reproductive stages, means obviously adult stages of the parasite, right. So such hosts are called what? Primary host students, you need to remember, right. So that is what you see, it is the host that harbors, means supports, accommodates the adult stages or sexually mature stages of a parasite, right, or the host in which parasite undergoes sexual reproduction student. So sexually, when host is accommodating or when host is harboring sexually, I mean adult stages of the parasite. So adult stage of the parasite obviously undergo what? Sexual reproduction. So therefore, so you can define what? There is a, you know, there are many ways to define what primary host. So 3-4 definitions you can write or you can give. So right student, right, it's very simple. What is primary host? Our primary host is also called definitive host. One thing you need to remember, what is exactly primary host? If adult stages of the parasite or sexually mature stages of the parasite live in the host, such hosts are called what? Primary host or definitive host, students. So, since when adult stages are living or sexually mature stages are living in the host, so obviously in that host they will be undergoing what? Sexual reproduction. It is natural, very simple. So, all you need to remember, comprehensive kind of definition you can give: the host that harbors what? Adult stages or sexually mature stages of the parasite, or the host in which parasite is undergoing what? Sexual reproduction. Such hosts are called what? Primary hosts or definitive host, students. I hope you understood. It is very, very simple, nothing is there in this, it is very simple, student. Let us understand examples for primary host, right? What are the examples? You know, we have classical example, students. Here you see Plasmodium vivax. Let us take what? Plasmodium vivax parasite, and its hosts are what? Human being and female Anaphylus mosquito, students. For Plasmodium vivax, human being is considered as secondary host, student. Means what? Primary host we have to take here. For Plasmodium vivax, female Anaphylus mosquito acts as what? Female Anaphylus mosquito acts as primary host, student. That means what? So, sexually mature stages will be living, or sexual reproduction of the Plasmodium vivax is taking place where? In female Anaphylus mosquito. So, therefore, for Plasmodium vivax, female Anaphylus mosquito is primary host, you need to remember, and human being is secondary host. For Culex, Culex, right, for Wuchereria bancrofti causes filariasis, and for Wuchereria bancrofti, Culex, female Culex mosquito acts as what? Secondary host, human being acts as what? Primary host, student, you need to remember. So, all you need to remember, so human being is primary host for Wuchereria bancrofti, and female Anaphylus mosquito is primary host for Plasmodium vivax, student, right. It is very simple, quite confusing, but you know, you do not worry, it is very, very simple, student, right. So, again in life cycle we will be talking about this in detail, right. So, all you need to remember, in both the cases, in malaria and filariasis, in both the cases what? Mosquito will be there and human being will be there. In malaria, mosquito is considered as primary host and human being is considered as secondary host. In case of filariasis, mosquito is considered as secondary host, human being is considered as primary host, student, right. I hope you understood, it is very simple. Next you see, in types of hosts, intermediate host, right, student, right, are secondary host. What do you mean by intermediate host? So, if you understood primary host, you can easily understand what is secondary host. See, students, the host that harbors immature stages of the parasite, right, are the host in which parasite undergoes asexual multiplication or asexual reproduction. Such hosts are called what? Secondary host, students. Secondary hosts are also called intermediate hosts, you need to remember. So, let us try to understand examples. Same C parasites I would like to take, dear students. Plasmodium vivax, let us take Plasmodium vivax. For Plasmodium vivax, human being is secondary host, student. That is what I have mentioned, you see, it is very simple. Man means human being, is secondary host for what? Plasmodium, and female Culex mosquito, right, student, right, secondary host for Wuchereria bancrofti, opposite to that of what? Primary host, student, you need to remember, it is very simple. So, secondary host means, I hope you understood, the host in which asexual stages of the parasite is asexual stages or immature stages of the parasite, right. So, if immature stages or asexual stages of the parasites are living in the host, so such hosts are called what? Secondary host, students. Secondary hosts are also called intermediate hosts, all you need to remember. Otherwise, what you can say, simple, if asexual reproduction of the parasite takes place in the host, so such hosts are called what? The host in which parasite is undergoing asexual reproduction, right, is known as secondary host or intermediate host, student. So, female Culex mosquito, in female Culex mosquito, parasite will be undergoing what? Asexual reproduction, or immature stages of the parasites will be living in the female Culex mosquito, right, student, right, of Wuchereria bancrofti. So, therefore, for Wuchereria bancrofti, female Culex mosquito is secondary host. In case of human being, asexual multiplication of the Plasmodium vivax is taking place where? In the body of human being. So, therefore, human being is considered as secondary host for Plasmodium vivax parasite, student, right. So, with this we have finished what? Intermediate hosts. Now you see student, one more category, most important category, reservoir host. Third category of host is reservoir host. What is reservoir host? You see student, it is very simple. So generally this is very rare for your kind information, you need to remember. Generally you will come across what primary host and secondary host, you need to remember, but reservoir host is sometimes it comes into what you can say picture, dear students, right. So whenever primary host and secondary host is not available for the parasite, parasites are very intelligent student, right. So they show so many adaptations for their survival, so they are very intelligent as well. So when primary host and secondary hosts are not available, so in such cases parasite may become extinct student, right. So when primary and secondary hosts are not available, then parasite will live in some other organism student. It makes some other organism as its host and it will be surviving in that other organism, right, unless and until it get what, primary or secondary host student, right. So such hosts are called what, reservoir host, and when parasite is living in the reservoir host, so of course it is not going to cause any kind of damage to the reservoir host, nor it is going to undergo any sort of development in the reservoir host student. Just for time being it will be living in the reservoir host students, right. It is very simple, you need to remember. See, it is the host that lodges infective stages of the parasite, right, in its body when human host is not available. When human host is not available means what, whenever main host in which parasite is adapted to live. So in such cases, if human beings, generally human beings are the main host, right. So if human beings are not available, in such cases what parasites are going to do? So parasites are, for time being, they are going to survive in what, some other organisms, and those organisms are called what, a reservoir host. So when parasite is surviving in reservoir host, it is neither undergoing any kind of development nor it is going to cause any kind of problem, you can say, or disease in what, its reservoir host student. That is what I have mentioned. In the reservoir host, parasite is neither undergo any kind of development nor cause any disease students, all you need to remember. So whenever primary and secondary hosts are not available, what parasite is going to do, what option will be there in front of parasite? So it is a kind of do or die situation, right. So when primary and secondary hosts are not available, so in such cases what, parasite has to survive, otherwise it will be, perished. So therefore it will enter what, some organism, so where it can survive for time being, and when it enter any, what you can say, reservoir host, it is neither going to cause any damage to the reservoir host body, nor it is going to show any kind of development in the body of reservoir host student, right. So it is very simple, you need to remember. Let us try to understand some examples, right, so that you can remember this forever. You can understand much more clearly, student. Monkeys, right, monkeys for Plasmodium. So human being is, secondary host for Plasmodium vivax. If human being is not available, you see, so then what? So this Plasmodium can live in the body of monkeys, right, student, right. So that is what, monkey is considered as what, reservoir host for the Plasmodium. And you see one more, African antelope, student, African antelope gnu. So this you might have seen, this is what, wild beast, student, wild beast, this is popularly known as wild beast. You might have seen on Animal Geography, right, Masai Mara, Africa, you will come across this African antelope, this is gnu, student, right, wild beast this is. So Trypanosoma gambiense, which causes African sleeping sickness, right. So if what you can say, human being is not available, so Trypanosoma gambiense can live in this wild beast, student, right. So with this we have finished what, reservoir host as well. So another technical term you need to understand, student, vector. So we have finished what so far, parasitism, parasite, types of parasites, host, types of host we have seen. Now you see, this word is also very important, students, right. In health and diseases, in parasites, whenever we are talking about disorder, diseases, right, parasitic diseases, so this is also very important, students, right. So vector, what is vector? Vector is not physics vector here, biological vector I am talking about. So vector is generally an organism, especially insect, dear students, which transmits what, infective stages of parasite from one person to another person. So, insects are organisms, mostly insects, which transmit what? Parasites from one person to infected person to another healthy person. So, such organisms are called what? Vector, students. You need to remember, it is a very simple, right. So, vectors are classified into two types, students. One is mechanical vector. What is mechanical vector? So, if vector is transmitting organism, right, from one person to another person, and when vector is transmitting the organism, if parasite is not undergoing any kind of development in the body of the vector, so such vectors are called what? Mechanical vector, students, right. So, mechanical vectors simply transmit the parasitic stage from one stage, infective stage, from one organism to another organism, right. So, when it is transmitting the infective stages from one organism to another organism, so parasite is not going any kind of development in the body of the vector. So, such vectors are called mechanical vector, students, right. Example, you see house flies, cockroaches, right. So, these are very good examples for what, students? Mechanical vectors for Entamoeba histolytica. And one more vector we have, that is what? Biological vector, student, right. So, mechanical vector, and one more is there, biological vector. It is very simple. So, biological vector is again what? Vector. So, it can transmit, this is an organism, that too it is an insect that transmits what? Infective stages of parasite from one person to another person. Whenever it is transmitting the infective stages of the parasite from one person to another person, so the parasite undergoes what? Some kind of development in the body of what? These vectors. So, such vectors are called what? Biological vectors. If parasite undergoes the development, any kind of development, right, student, right, in the body of the vector, so such vectors are called what? Biological vectors, students. So, we have classical examples for biological vectors. What are those classical examples? So many are there. So, you see in our syllabus, right. So, according to our syllabus, we have to see at the end of the day female Anaphylus mosquito, student, right. So, you can see here female Anaphylus mosquito, right, in the case of what? Plasmodium vivax, students. In case of malaria or Plasmodium vivax, female Anaphylus mosquito acts as biological vector. In case of what? I see female Culex mosquito, in case of what, students? Wuchereria bancrofti or filariasis. So, I have shown here, you see this is Anaphylus mosquito, dear students, this is Culex mosquito, this acts as vector in case of what? Plasmodium vivax, and this acts as vector in case of what? Wuchereria bancrofti, students. So, with this we have finished what? Today's session ends here only. Today we have seen parasite, host, parasitism we have seen, parasite we have seen, types of parasites we have seen, host, types of host, vectors we have seen, everything we have seen, students. So, rest of the things we will discuss in next class. Thank you for watching Master. Keep watching Master. Thanks.